Alright, so I'm back, and today I am going to, as the title suggests, do a hand analysis of the 500 millibar map from 8 a.m. this morning here on the 25th of June, or at the 20th of June, excuse me. I'm fiddling with the lights here. The 20th of June in 2025. So I came a little more prepared today. I have the visual here, zoom in a little bit on this, for what I'm looking at, a station plot. So for any one of these singular station plots on my map, it shows in the upper left the height in decameters. To the right of that is the 12-hour height change in decameters. On the left is the temperature in degrees Celsius. Bottom left, the dew point in degrees Celsius. Across from those on the right are their 12-hour changes. And then finally, in the center is our wind barb, so showing the direction the wind is coming from. So here we have winds coming out of the southwest, and I need to prepare something for the wind. It's not included on here. This is showing 50 knots. If there were a full line, that would be 10, and a half line would be 5. And right here in the center is the exact wind speed. So it kind of mushes up with everything else, but this one is 51 knots. So I have that handy if I need to reacquaint myself or everyone else with what's going on here. So what I am going to do for the 500 millibar map, I'm going to contour the heights. So recall those are displayed to the upper left of one of these stations, and it is showing us the height in decameters, meaning tens of meters. So for instance, this station has 590, which means it has a 500 millibar height, the height at which the balloon with the package of instrumentation measured 500 millibars was 5,900 meters above the surface. So 590 is the height in decameters of the station. We're going to start with our reference of 570, so 5,700 decameters, and our contours are going to be in the interval of 6 decameters. So we're thinking 570. If there's anything lower, that would be 564. So just taking a quick look around here, looking for some of my lower values. Generally, we're going to find lower values here to the north, higher values to the south. Here I see 552, 552, some 560s, 560s across here, 560s up here. So taking a quick look around the rest of the map area, we've got 570s, 580s, 590s, 590s down here, some 580s, 570s. So that gives us a pretty good feel for the lay of the land in terms of where our values are for heights. So I'm going to start with 570. I'm going to go to 564. 558 would be next, and then actually 552 if I've done my math right. So yeah, 3 times 6, 18. Subtract that from 570 would be, yeah, 552. So that'll be my first line. I know that I only have 550s right up here in this kind of Pacific Northwest area. So, and these two are exactly 552. This is 556. It's going to be a little bit closer to my next contour, which is 558. So I'm going to kind of keep this pretty close and just give a contour up here. As I said, let me use this to jot down. This is the 552 contour, and next is 558, and there are no other values beyond 556 that would necessitate my attention. Thinking ahead, the next one would be 564, so we need to come close here, but there's 70s otherwise. We're going to have some values further over here to consider. So we'll kind of want to keep this generally close as well. So 558. Probably just confine it to right here. Alright, so we've got two contours, 552, 558. The next contour is going to be 564. We're going to want to stay, because we'll have another contour down here, part way between our 558 and this 569. So I will just kind of start here. And then for 564, we want to look up here. We've got 563, 563, 572. So we're going to want to get fairly close to these. As we continue, we're going to take a look. So we've got another 563, 564, 563. So we've got kind of a path to take. We have a 565 down here, so we're going to want to round this out between our 563 and 565 values, because this line is valued at 564. Then we've got 567 and 565. So we're going to want to take a pretty sharp turn up here, keeping these. So if this line is valued at I'll use this space over here, 564. We're going to want to keep everything less than 564 up here. Everything greater than 564 down here, which accounts for this area right here, our 565 and our 567. Alright, so our next line is going to be 570. We can start from over here again. Taking a quick look, we have 579, 576, which will be the value of our next line, and a 569 here, 575. So we're going to want our line to be really close. This 570 is going to want to stick really close to this 569. We'll start it right up here. Then we've got 572 and 1. So it's going to want to be fairly close to those two. It's closer, a 570 line's closer to 572 and 571 than it is to 564. Keep this going. And then we'll consider values over here. We've got 578, 572, 576. So it'll stay fairly close to this 572. Here we've got 565 and 574. So the 570 line's gonna be a hair closer to 574, but pretty much right in between these two stations. And then considering where we finish up, we have 574, 567, 579. So we're going to want to bring this between the two, again, slightly closer to this 567 than to 574. Bring it up here. And I will label this line right here. Alright, now our next line is going to be the 576 line, for which we have this station, so we can start and just go right through there. We're going to want to keep 575 right inside this, since we're drawing a 576, but we don't want to get too far from 578. So since we're drawing 576, we're going to come up here, considering 577. We've got 580. Here's a 571 and a 578. So we're going to want to take this between the two. We don't want to get terribly close to 578 because 571 is up here, but we want to split those. I'm going to tidy up right here a little bit. Alright, we've got a 576 and a 577 to aim for. And then as we approach here, a close look tells me we have 581. It's a little bit difficult to see. I'm not going to zoom in. There's a 580, a 581, 577, which we'll get close to. Here's 574. So we're going to take a turn here. We've got 574 and 579. So we're going to want to go right between those. And oh, I didn't move my sheet. So 574, 579. Kind of tried to split these two and finished up that line. We'll label it here. This was 576. Alright, so next is 582. So our 582 line will start over here on the west coast once again. We've got 83 and 79, so we're going to be a little bit closer to this 83. Not terribly far from the 79 though. So our 582 line, stick relatively close to these 83s. We're gonna be right in between these two. 582 is equidistant between 578 and 586. And 582, here we're kind of encountering, you know, this big gap in data, so we don't have much to work on other than this singular station, so I think we'll just kind of continue on till we get up here. 582, we gotta keep 580 above it. We're gonna aim here with this 584. A little bit closer to 584, considering 578 is a little bit lower. You know, we'll be about 2/3 of the way closer here to match up with, you know, how the data is aligned. So yeah, you can see here in the Nebraska area we just have this this big hole in our data, and you know, there's not much we can do about it right now, just manage with what we got. And persist. All right. Let's see, we are going to shift so we can get all this in view. With our 582 line, we have 584, 583. So we'll come relatively close to 583. Over here we've got 580, 585. So we'll be a little bit closer to this 580. However, here we have 581, and we're going to need to maneuver around that. We've got higher values down here, and we really don't have anything up here. We can just, you know, more or less end our line right here. There's no indication where this line's going to go. Here we'll label it 582. Our next line then is going to be 588. So we have 583. 587, 587, 590. So gives us a good indication. We'll start here, loop up a little bit closer to this 87. 588 is closer to 87 than it is to 90. Here we've got 586, 591. We're going to want to be a smidge closer to 586. And then again we hit this gap in our data. So really the best route is to work with what we already know is going on here with this ridge. And then we're going to look a little further here to our east. So we've got some 590s, a whole bunch of those, and a 585. So we'll target coming in maybe a bit further north. Again, hard to do this when we have a big gap. 588 is going to be closer to 590 than to 585. However, this 589, we're going to want to make sure, and again, need to maybe adjust my line a bit here, the trajectory I'm taking, to make sure and get fairly close to this 589. And then take a look at the landscape. I've got 586, 587, and 589. So my 588 is going to want to exit right around the border between the two Carolinas. So we'll just do something like that. I'll use this space for the label. And then next contour. So 594. All right, we've got 590, 91, 91, 92. Got a lot of 90s. 93. 92, 92, 91. You know what? I think we're done. We do not have anything that is 594 decameters or higher on this map. So in terms of drawing in, let me zoom this out a couple notches. See if we can get, there we go. So in terms of our height contours, this is what we've got. And when I go around at the end to kind of darken everything, probably smooth out, you know, especially here, smooth out some of these a bit. Yeah, that's the height contours. Next I'm going to take a look at wind speed, looking for anything that's 50 knots or greater. Just give it a little contour in blue. Anything 70, so we'll go in 20 knot contours above that. However, I am not thinking we're gonna have anything above that. We have a few spots where we have some contours, some wind values of 50 knots. So we've got one right here, and I can zoom in just a little bit, maybe a little bit more. There, that's good. So you can pick up on 50 knot or greater contours pretty easily, because that is a threshold at which you are going to start having just a flag, a triangle. So here's one, so this was 51, 56. Looking around, this one got kind of covered up with a secondary station, but this is 51. This is also 56. We'll stay kind of up north here, scanning. This is 52, 54. This one is 58. We'll check down here. We've got nothing that fast, so a few pretty small areas. I'll kind of lightly contour with my blue. Here we're close at 47, close-ish at 45. Not so close here. This is just 27. So trying to, I mean, we're just at 51 here, so we don't even have to go that far, and nothing up this way is very strong. So just a small area here with wind speeds 50 knots or above, 56 right here. Again, looking around, 27, 39, 12. I mean, this is, I'm not seeing much around it to suggest drawing a very big area. So another small area. Up here we have our 51 and our 56, 39, 47. Got kind of our hole in the data. So got 39, 31 back here. So probably something like this. Here's 47, so I'll extend it up towards that. Maybe something like this. I'll come back around later and shape that up a bit. And then right here is our last area where we would consider some contours for winds. Got, it looks like 43 here, 39, 37, 41, our 52 and our 54. So probably not going too far back here. 37 up here, so we're not even going to go too far up that way. 47 here, so we can kind of extend this up somewhat. Here's where we've got 58, so we can actually extend this up here. However, this is 39, so we don't want to go too far beyond that. Our 47, so contour, somewhat like this. I'll come back and darken that at the end. But yeah, just a few. Let's see if we can get this. There's the focus. So they're a little light, but a few pretty small areas. And then up here where we've got wind speeds in this flow, above 50 knots, and nothing above 70 knots that's going to need shaded. So the last thing we're going to look for, and I'll get the sheet here, is to take a look for height rises and then height falls. And so we're looking for height rises of 3 decameters or higher, and we'll contour every 3. So we're focusing just on the upper right. So our 12-hour height change, we're interested in either values of +3 or higher, or -3 or lower. And then we'll look, in intervals of 3. So our positive we'll look for first. Those we will use orange. And again, I'll start up here. So we've got some negative values over here, some -3s. So a lot of negative values in this region, something to keep in mind, come back for later. Negative values through here. Negative, we've got a 0, still negative. Looking here, negative down into Texas. Some 0s, so no change. 0s, +2. Here is +3, +4, +3. So we're looking just in a relatively small area. The rest over here are negative. Up here we have some negative values. So in terms of, and we'll end up using, when we clean this up, just doing some dashed lines. But for now we will take these and just do a light contour around them. So 3, 3, 4, 4. I believe that's it, so we'll do just something like this. Since 2 is over here, we won't get all the way to it, but we will get close. So we've got 2, 2, 2. We've got a 2 down here. So perhaps I can even, extend this a little bit further down this way. But then we've got 1, and then some negative values over here. So we'll save this, because all we needed to do was to draw the one contour. I can't see anything higher than 6, but there are many areas that we found that are -3 or lower. So up here where we started, we've got some pretty extreme values. So we've got -3. Let me see, there we go. So -3, -9, -12, -3, -3. So just thinking contouring and continuity, I'm going to draw a contour fairly close to these -3s. I'm going to, because there's a -3 down here, and -2, I think I'm going to dip down here and just kind of come up this way, because now I need a -6, and I will come through here because I have a -9 I'm going to need to add. So -6. I might want to put these on the other side. I'm thinking that would probably be wiser. So luckily I've done these fairly light. I'm gonna come around, and it's probably what I should have done in the first place. So these -3s will be inside this line because I have -2 down here. So I have values of -3 pretty far down. Yeah, this is definitely what I should have started with, but that's alright, here we go. So yeah, we've got our values. I can just connect it right here. So this is all -3. Next I'm going to draw in a contour for -6. I have a -9 and a -12 up here. Might need a couple because I have a I can do it perhaps. Let's just go. So -6. Down here. Taking a look. I'm putting everything inside this line as -6 or lower. I've got a -5 over here, a -7 right here, and I think I can come back around. And then -9, I've got some values that fall in here, so I'll start right here. Got this -12 that needs included, and a -10. I have a -8 right here that I'm going to need to maneuver around. I've got this -9. And just this -12 for that area. Alright, I have that done. Let's move over, and same concept, looking for, I have -3, -7, -2, -5, so I can start, get the -3 in here, keep the 2 out, but keep the 5 in. We've got 7, we've got 11, we've got 3, 3. So I've got an idea of what I need to do. Then I've got some 1s. I have some of these positive values. So I want to loop here because I don't want to cross through this positive area. But I do have a couple -3s. Everything inside this line is -3 or less. So I have a 4 up here. So I'm going to, and 7 and 11. So I'm going to come around and connect up here. It's very light. I've done this on purpose because I'm going to come and do a dashed line once I figure everything out. A quick look down here just to make sure I don't miss anything. Everything's pretty close to 0. A couple zeros, minus 1s, minus 2s, you know, maybe a 1 or 2 here and there. So my focus is going to be right up here in this area. Let's see. We've got our minus 3s. We have a minus 7, a minus 5, a minus 7, and an 11. So next is minus 6. Going to include the 7. Come over here kind of close to the 5. Include this 7. Come around here. In fact, in this kind of mess over here, I think this, the more I look at it, is minus 3. So I'm going to want to make sure and include that. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit right now. Alright, so I've been working on this. I've got my minus 6 line, and it's going to come around, include the minus 7, include the minus 11. Keep out this minus 4, connect, and then one more line. I just did minus 6, now I have minus 9 because I have this minus 11 that's lower. And I'll just kind of do something like this. I don't want to go too far because I don't have anything, you know, I've got minus 7 up here, which I suppose for this minus 9, because I have this other minus 7, I suppose I can maybe extend it a little further up to represent the fact that I have a minus 7 up here. Alright, so this is where I'm at. I have identified, let's get the focus. Maybe even one more out. There we go. Alright, so I have, and you can't see, and this is purposeful, you can't see some of the lighter areas that I've drawn because I want to come in and do those a little heavier. So now I'm going to just do some touch-up work. I'll start back with my height contours. I'm going to come around and retrace these with a heavier emphasis. And coming back through this second wave, I can, you know, kind of iron out some of the little hesitancies and how I drew them initially, so I can make everything a little more deliberate. And some of these areas I need to come back through and touch up with the eraser. So anywhere that I'm deviating from my initial line is not really going to be by very much at all, just because I'm trying to get a smoother contour. I don't want to get a smoother contour at the expense of detail, but areas here where, you know, a small difference in where my initial line is and where this final line is are not really making a big difference. And for the most part, you know, I'm staying true to what I initially contoured. You know, looking at it, I'm going to leave it, but I might, you know, curve this one down a little bit if I were to go back and fix it, just to, you know, there's nothing physically telling me it needs to be straighter here. You know, this would take more of a dip here. Maybe I'll try to get that right here. There, so it looks a little more uniform. Alright, those, because remember we didn't have any values down here that necessitated a new contour. So those are our height contours. Next, I'm just going to darken these areas, and these aren't going to require really anything but darkening my contour lines to see. I don't even need to shade them because these only rose to the level of a contour. Few areas in the flow where we have wind speeds exceeding 50 knots. We have one larger area up here. There, those should be pretty visible. Few areas here with wind speeds above 50 knots, but nothing above 70. I have my one area where heights are rising. So over the last 12 hours, we had a weak area. So I mean, we only have one contour representing 3 decameters. So 30 meters of height rises over the previous 12 hours. So dashed lines here. That's why I drew it fairly light, so I could come in with the dashes a bit heavier. We've got some broader areas of height. I'm going to use purple. I think that might stand out. Well, now I'm going to stick with this light blue. We have height falls over the last 12 hours in quite a few areas. So I'm going to do a quick contour here. Well, some dashed lines along these contours. Again, since we kept the initial line pretty faint, I can just add these dashes over it, and that'll stick out very nicely. Yeah, very broad areas between 8 p.m. last night and 8 a.m. this morning, at least here in the east. So from 0Z to 12Z of height falls. Got a pretty large area here out west. And we still haven't even gone back over the area in the east. Probably gonna have to give this pencil a quick sharpen before I finish up. But you can see here in the west through the Rockies, yeah, some height falls overnight. All right. Reinforcements in terms of pencil sharpening, but this area is not quite as broad. Let's get these done. One more contour. Of course, it's the longest one out east, but at this point, we've spent the most time going back over our lines with these height falls. Alright, so last, but certainly not least, grabbing another pencil here, I want to, now that I have all of this contoured, I want to mark where I have this trough axis. So I'm going to use brown, just kind of mark this trough axis with a dashed line. And out west we have a trough. And here-ish. Could extend down here. Well, we'll do that since we have this broad area of height falls, and we have this ridge, so we're gonna note this ridge axis. That's pretty good, maybe a hair over this way, but I think this gets the point across. So if we are analyzing from this morning our 500 millibar heights, we've got depicted here our height contours. We've got a trough out here to the west. We've got a trough out here to the east. We've got right about here, through, some of the Rocky Mountains, or at least in the vicinity, maybe a hint to the east of them. This ridge, we have a few small areas with some faster wind speeds. We don't, over the last 12 hours, really have much in the way of appreciable height rises. So height rises, you would see ridging occurring. So we've got a ridge over here, but really we're seeing height falls, and that's going to either deepen or suggest that your trough is moving on in one direction or the other. So we've had a lot of deepening up here. Right here we've had 12 decameters of height falls. We've had this broad area of 9, a very broad area of 6 decameters of decreases in height overnight. Likewise, out east, we've had 9 or more decameters of height falls. So can see these are pretty close to, and generally to the in the vicinity of and to the east of our troughs. So we can use these to anticipate the movement of the wave, and we can use these to see where we would have strengthening of troughs or strengthening of ridges. We just don't really have much in the way of large areas of height rises. So, all right, that is pretty much it for what I'm going to do today. Spent some time doing a pretty detailed analysis of this 500 millibar chart from this morning. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed and perhaps learned something.